for CEOs and millionaires. I've never seen my vision be more crystal clear. Look in the mirror, see the change in who I used to be. I kept going, knew success would come eventually. But ask about me back then, they said I wouldn't make it. Nowadays they doubt less and tend to ask for favors. Poetic music, that's realness, don't let them tell you different. And if you ever lost in doubt, then follow your intuition. These words of wisdom is for those who's trying to find their purpose. Don't be living just to die, cause only death is certain. I'm working hard so I can toast to my accomplishments. Cause see, I lost it all and I ain't been the same since. I'm more focused, more ambitious, more everything. Grew up with nothing, now I appreciate the finer things. I know it's real when at the shows they ask for autographs. And now they know the name, they ain't gotta ask. Yeah. They ain't gotta ask.
Right. So here we go. So my next guest here, with continuing on with the oral history of the Jewish War Veterans Post, Denver 344. I have David Wallack, and David is number 6 in the hopper, so to speak. And I'll let David introduce himself.
Hello, my name is David Wallack. I'm originally a New Yorker.
Woohoo.
Born on Long Island, raised in the Bronx, right by Yankee Stadium.
Nice.
Went to public schools there, including the Bronx High School of Science, and then went on to Columbia for my college degree. And then I went to medical school in Buffalo. And once I graduated, I went into postgraduate training at the time called internship and residency. And my postgraduate training was interrupted by joining the service.
Oh, okay.
It was the time of the Vietnam War.
Got it. And I'm sorry, what year were you born?
I was born in 1942.
Okay. So were you... I know baby boomers technically are like 45 and past, right? So that wouldn't be considered baby boomer, or is that still in the realm?
Okay.
Perfect. So
when that happens, what shall I do, if anything?
You're fine. So we'll edit it out and just make sure that everything's good to go.
Okay.
And kind of put it together. So born in 42. What part of Long Island did you grow up in? Or where were you born?
I was born on the South Shore, and for about 4 years we lived in Freeport.
Okay.
On the South Shore there. And then at a time when, many, many New Yorkers were moving to Long Island, we moved to the Bronx.
Right.
It was to help my father, who was in the restaurant and luncheonette business in New York, to make his commute into Manhattan a lot easier.
Crazy.
And we ended up on Jerome Avenue in the Bronx, just about 3 or 4 blocks down from Yankee Stadium.
So did you get to see any amazing games living so close?
I probably saw the Yankees play 200 times.
Wow.
And, it was at the height of their success. They were winning pennants and World Series almost every year. Mickey Mantle was my hero. Mm-hmm. And I'm still a very strong Yankee supporter.
Yeah, that's great. I can only imagine growing up around that time and seeing Mickey Mantle, all these greats like down the
right.
street.
Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, Phil Rizzuto, Bill Skowron,
Reggie
Hank
Jackson.
Bauer.
Yeah. Um, did you appreciate the game more or less after the Steinbrenners took over the team?
Well, the Steinbrenner era in many ways was difficult, but it never led me to leave my strong rooting interest in the Yankees. And eventually, of course, they turned things around, but that wasn't until 1995 or so.
Yeah, that's a long wait.
Right.
So how did you end up in Colorado?
Well, as I mentioned, my residency training had been interrupted to serve in the Army.
Okay.
So that was a 2-year stretch. And while over in Vietnam, I applied to various residencies to continue my training once I got out of the service. And, I was accepted by a few. And while in the service, I had heard a lot of good things about Colorado and Denver, which then was, I think, still considered somewhat of a cow town, but was also thought to have a lot of potential. So upon my return to the States, I came out to Denver, toured the facility, really liked what I saw, thought it was a strong program, and signed on to continue my training once my Army tour was ended.
So question for you. So was that
Coming back from Vietnam, I still had almost a year left in my training. I'm sorry, in my tour. And that was actually a rather good assignment. It was at West Point. So I completed that, and then we came out to Colorado.
Got it.
And at the time, I thought that we would come out to Colorado and, I would complete my residency training and then probably head back to the Northeast. But turned out we liked it so much out here that we stayed, had children, raised them here, and of course I've never left.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talked a little bit about your dad. So were your parents born in the U.S.?
Yes, they were both born in the U.S. in Brooklyn. Their parents, that is all of my grandparents, though, emigrated from Ukraine.
Okay.
And I've been able to track down the towns that they came from. I've never visited there, but maybe someday I will.
Yeah.
And, I know a little bit about their towns. But they settled, I think, first on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and then in Brooklyn in 1907, 1908, 1909, something like that.
Got it. And then when you grew up, did you have like a decent sized family, like siblings and everything, cousins, all that good stuff, like all around?
No, actually, well, my father had a couple of siblings and my mother had 3, but nevertheless, it was not a very large extended family. But interestingly, I'm still close to some of my cousins and, speak with them every 6 or 8 weeks or something like that. And yeah, it's good to keep up with them. And, they're spread out now. I have cousins who are in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, California, Connecticut. And then, a couple also right in the New York area.
Got it. And then growing up, was being Jewish a very big part of your family's identity, or was it just one of those things that it was a part of you, but being an American, being a New Yorker, that kind of superseded everything?
Yeah, in our case, I think it was more of the latter. I mean, we definitely identified as Jewish. Weren't extremely observant, but I went to Hebrew school for approximately 4 years, and I was bar mitzvahed, and we lived in a strip along Jerome Avenue where there were a number of Jewish families. So we clearly identified that way, albeit not terribly observant.
Got it.
And I am more observant now as an older adult than I was then.
It's always interesting when people grow up in a different mindset and then either stray from what they know from before, or like actually get more into it. What do you think was a driving factor in that? Like being married, kids?
Yes, I think having a family has partially driven that. And I've made a trip to Israel, and that's been a highlight of my adult life. And I think that also brought me closer to the religion and the culture. And I think those are the factors.
Yeah. How did you like it overall there? Was it a spiritual journey? Was it like the historical aspects of the country? What was your favorite part about the country?
Well, I think both. It's obviously it's a small enough country that you can traverse it relatively easily. So I saw a good deal of it in my 2 or 2.5 weeks there. And initially the historical part of it attracted me and got my interest, but culturally it was very important, and the strength of the people, and how they've persevered through all of the obstacles that they faced. It was obviously very impressive, and had a big impact on me.
Yeah. So do you have family over there or anybody?
No, I have no family in Israel, at least that I'm aware of.
Got it. And then did anybody else in your family serve in the military?
Yes, I had a couple of older cousins, they were older than me by 20 years or so, who each served during World War II.
Oh, wow. And then when you were drafted, what did your family think about that?
Well, I should explain. At the time of the Vietnam War, for doctors, there was a program called the Berry Plan.
Okay.
What it meant was that doctors needed to go in, but they would agree not to bring you on board during a training year. Training years generally go from July 1st through June 30th. So I signed on because it was inevitable that I was going to have to go in. There was a great need for physicians in the military at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to do it. My date of service entry was actually July 1st.
In what years were you serving?
So I served from July 1st, 1968 through June 30th, 1970.
Okay.
And I went to basic training at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, and someone there gave me a pitch about being an Army flight surgeon or aviation medical officer. And I agreed to do that, so I went for an additional 5 or 6 weeks at Fort Rucker for additional training.
Yeah.
Fort Rucker's in northern Alabama. And then I immediately was shipped to Vietnam. So within 11 weeks of joining, I was in Vietnam.
Wow. And then how old were you when you were there? Like 26, 27-ish?
Yes, you're right. I was 26. It was 68, so I was 26 at that time. And I joined an air cavalry squadron, which is basically an Army helicopter unit.
Yep.
And that was based in the Central Highlands, just outside of Pleiku.
Got it. And during that time, I mean, there was so much going on during this time of the country, and the irony of what's happening today in the country as well. Like, I can imagine, obviously, some of the feelings that you probably have had in the last week or two kind of conjure up the same kind of things that were going on during the time in the U.S. with Nixon and other things going on. What was your feeling like being in the military at that time, during such tumultuous times, I think, for the U.S. with, Chicago just happened, Vietnam War is going on. You've got a lot of things in America that are stirring up, and you're across the world trying to combat communism and fight off communism from dominoing down the countries, quote unquote. Tell me what your thoughts were, if you can remember during that time.
Yeah. Well, there was some ambivalence. I was truly honored to serve. I met a lot of interesting people, a lot of very strong, heroic people from my unit, because they were, helicopter pilots and their supporters, their supporting staff. We lost a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And of course, while you're over there serving, you're, insulated from a lot of the reaction that's going on, back in the States. Upon returning, there was, clearly a divide. There were people, who thanked me for my service, but then there were also people, who objected to the war and objected to anyone who might have served over there. So, I carried some ambivalence about that. And, nowadays, I think the response of people is, more in the direction of thanking us for our service, understanding that it's not a war that we chose, and
yeah, they take it up with
more appreciation.
Absolutely,
decades later than there was then.
Yeah, I think people are judging the policies and not the people that are carrying out the policy in a different way now. Before, it was, congruent with each other. So you get back in 70, having, made it through Vietnam in the Air Cav, which is not something to sneeze about. When you got back, you still had your training. What were you doing after 70 around that time? So you
Okay, well, I actually got back in October of 69.
Okay.
you serve 1 year to the day. And so I got back in October of '69. And then I completed my tour, which was 10 months or so, at West Point.
Got it.
And I was, like a general, I saw a sick call for cadets, but also, the staff at West Point and their families primarily.
Got it.
And I also sort of joined their aviation club and did a little flying with them as well.
Oh, nice.
But that wasn't a big part of my time there. So once the tour at West Point was completed, I was finished with my 2-year tour of duty. And then I had married in the interim there. And then we came out to Colorado, essentially July 1st of 1970. And I started my training in internal medicine at the University of Colorado Medical Center. So, of course, at that time, it was at 9th and Colorado, essentially.
Got it. Over by Rose Hospital.
Exactly, yes. Immediately west of Rose Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, you had Rose, then the VA, and then the University Medical Center.
Got it.
So I was there for 2 years, completed my intern residency, and then we had decided that we would stay in Colorado, although that wasn't the initial intent. And then I joined a multi-specialty clinic that was down in Littleton. And we moved down to that area.
Got it. And then what kind of specialty was it? Uh-oh. Did you hear me? Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. Things seem to have frozen a little bit now.
It's catching up. I'll be able to edit it later on. It should be fine. And then, so you were down at a specialty clinic, and what was your specialty, or what did you specialize in medicine specifically?
Okay, so I specialized in this. The specialty is internal medicine.
Okay.
So that's essentially being a primary care physician for adults.
Got it.
And internists do not do surgery. They're not obstetrician gynecologists. They don't see children, general, and that's probably defined as anyone 16 and above.
Got it. And you've been in Colorado ever since, basically. So from 70, 71 till now.
I've been in Colorado since July of 1970, right?
Wow. And congrats on your 50th wedding anniversary as well. I know it was last year, but it's a major accomplishment, I'm sure.
Well, actually, my wife and I are no longer together.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
But we have 3 beautiful daughters and 6 grandchildren.
Got it. 6 grandchildren. And do they live close to where you are? Do they live close to you, like in Littleton area, or are they spread out in Denver?
Well, I now live in the Cherry Creek North area.
Okay.
And my oldest daughter is a physician herself. She's a gastroenterologist. affiliated with a Vista Hospital, and she's married to an attorney and has a 7-year-old son, and she's about 10 to 12 minutes away. Then I have another daughter who has two daughters, 13 and 10, and she lives down south in the Centennial area, and she works for a commercial cleaning service company and goes around and tries to encourage offices or office buildings to use their services. And then I have a middle daughter who's married to an attorney, and his job took them to Nashville approximately 3.5 or 4 years ago. And she has 3 children, 14, 12, and 8. And they made a good transition to Nashville, which is a city that in many ways is similar to Denver. Mm-hmm. But they've always looked for an opportunity to come back, and her husband has found a position here with a company that's going to use an in-house counsel, and they'll actually be coming back during this calendar year. So all of the grandchildren will be back here.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting.
That'll be a real pleasure.
Yeah, since you obviously have a background in medicine, what has been your take on the last year as far as the virus is concerned from a medical standpoint and our reaction to it as a nation?
Well, from the outset, it appeared that this was clearly a very serious and, in many ways worse, a very easily transmissible virus. And, this was known in this country probably by late January. And, it was very disappointing to see that the leadership, labeled it as a hoax and something that would go away easily, and didn't take isolating the country and actually shutting down the country at a much earlier stage. And, obviously there was a lot of resistance to doing that. But I think if stronger steps had been taken early on, mm-hmm. Which were identified and which, many medical people were pushing for, that the impact of the disease would have been much less. And then we started, closing down various segments of the economy, and, of course, various states have different takes on it and the ways they've reacted. And then, and still now, they've opened up or reopened, either fully or partially, at times when the number of cases and the death rate was higher when they closed down. So, a lot of this hasn't made much sense, but that's where we're at now. And it's even with the vaccines coming on board, mm-hmm. It looks like the rollout is not going as smoothly as it should. But even with the vaccines on board, I'm concerned that we'll be dealing with this virus for many, many months, and probably more like a few years. One of the problems is that there's a strong anti-vaccination group in this country that will refuse to get any vaccine, and especially this vaccine, which additionally some people feel may have been rushed to market.
Right.
So we have this new normal that we're in. I think isn't going to end anytime soon, and could be with us for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
unfortunate.
there are some things that I think will never return to where we were at. The travel industry, restaurants, I think, have been impacted greatly already, and will never be quite the same. Going to movies may never be the same.
Right.
Attending sporting events may never be the same. Even if they open it up to 100% capacity, I think there's a substantial part of the population that will be very hesitant, to attend an indoor or even an outdoor event.
Right. Do you think?
So that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Do you think that the CDC can regain its credibility here in the near future, based on how they handled certain things as well?
Yes, I do. Simply because the leadership of the country is going to change in 9 or 10 days.
Right.
I think it's been well respected, and rightfully so. And I think you'll have people in place who, will feel freer to speak out about what they feel, and will tell the truth. And obviously that'll be a change from the current administration.
And have you felt any other time in your life where the country's been divided in such a way as today?
I'm sorry, Ben. I don't have a picture of you any longer. And with the last question that you asked, you broke up, and I did not actually understand the question.
Yeah, not a problem. I was just asking, in your lifetime, can you remember a time in the United States where we were divided as we are today?
No. Never. Not during the Korean War, Vietnam War, 9/11, these momentous events. And you may have latched on to the fact that, I feel that a lot of it is the divisive nature, that our leadership has shown.
Sure.
And, has clearly split us into two opposing camps. And I think it's been very harmful. I think many of the spin-offs of this are going to stay with us, not just for a few years, but possibly for decades.
Right.
And it's a concern I have, because I have children and grandchildren who are going to have to navigate through all of this.
And then, in light of moving forward and seeing the future, what do you hope for in the next couple years for the U.S. and for the world?
Well, regarding the virus, I'm hoping that people won't let down their guard, will continue to do all the things we're asked to do, socially distance, wear masks, and that enough vaccine will be produced and will be distributed that we can develop herd immunity and that we can get on top of this, terrible virus. As far as the divisiveness that we have, that's really a major concern. I think you have someone coming in who's a relative moderate and has worked successfully on both sides of the aisle. And I think he'll reach out to try to bring people together. For me, the question is whether he can keep the far left on his side, from demanding too progressive an agenda, and also whether the other side will allow him to reach out and, compromise and, more importantly, try to come together. It's going to be it's an extremely difficult situation that he's walking into. I think potentially he's the right man for the job. The question is whether people on either side will buy into it and, will allow it to happen. And, the jury's still out on that.
Do you think with this wave of veterans starting to take more public service responsibility, do you think we're going to get more folks like John McCain-ish kind of figures that will at least listen to other people? They may not agree on everything, but, we're going to get these people that actually stand for something rather than,
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Obviously, veterans have served their country and, they may have a mindset to try to serve politically as well. With these people having observed what's happened during the last 4 years and, especially over the last couple of weeks, I'm just not sure how many will want to go into public life and expose themselves to, all of the problems and issues that engenders. So I don't know that I can predict how much of an impact veterans might end up having.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's actually really considering running for Congress. He went to West Point, and we've been friends since high school. And I think it's really cool that he's trying to make it and really get out there and want to make a change.
Well, we should be thankful for that. I'm not sure how many people like him, might be available to do that. In Colorado, we've had a couple of relatively strong representatives, who served in the Middle East, and actually, each of them was elected in the same district to be a representative. First Mike Kaufman, and now Jason Crow.
Yep.
So, I mean, they are examples of what you're talking about, but again, I'm not sure how many people like that are around and available to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah. I just interviewed Ben Stein. He was Congressman Kaufman's chief of staff for a couple years. They were in the Marine Corps together. They knew each other back then. So it's really cool to see other folks being tied in that way, even within our Jewish war veterans post. And I really, I'm the youngest guy at the post. If obviously, if you didn't know, you know now. I just turned 40, and I think what I get from being around you guys is that life's precious, and you don't want to waste time sitting on the sidelines and hoping that things change. You just have to be an active participant in that change. And that's what I get from most of you guys. And that's what I want to show off to, the city of Denver, Colorado specifically, in that same way. That's why I like having these conversations with you guys.
Well, I think everyone's very appreciative that you're taking the time to do this, and
yeah,
we're thankful for it.
I appreciate the time as well. If you were thinking about your family, your kids, your grandkids, what do you think? What kind of advice would you consider giving them that you probably don't already give them on a regular basis? About life, about whatever.
Well, of course, like any grandparent, I always encourage them to, pay attention in school, study hard, read a lot, try to read and look at things critically, to often judge people, by what they do and not just listen to what they say. Their actions are more important.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, I am concerned about the environment that we've moved into, and my concerns are that it's going to hang around for quite a while.
Do you actively talk to your grandkids about stuff like that yet, or are they just too young to comprehend that kind of thing?
Well, half of them are too young. The older half, there are times when they might listen, but as any grandparent knows now, they are more interested in their handheld devices and video games, than they are, in listening, to an older person, try to direct them. So it doesn't mean that I've given up, but and I will try to encourage them,
right,
in these ways that I've mentioned going forward. But that's a bit of a struggle as well.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I have nieces and nephews, and they are rambunctious, and they they're all, like you said, they're connected to their devices, and when they're not, they are hyper as you know what. So it's as I've gotten older as well, I've definitely had a more affinity for family, in a sense of just being connected to my family. And I think that just comes with time and knowing that it's not infinite. And you just want to make sure that you still have moments together. I'm originally from Germany, and my dad was a service member as well. He met my mom there, and I was just there a couple months ago, hanging out with my family, and that's the longest I've been there since I was a teenager. Like, I was there for 2 months, just hanging out, and I think I needed that just as much as they needed that. Like, my grandmother is still alive.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 87, and she just, things obviously have changed, but my aunt is there, other folks as well, and just in this peculiar time, just really turning down the volume from regular life and just hanging out together was some of the best moments I had last year, like hanging out with my family, my extended family, and things like that. So just continuing to try to build those kind of moments, I think, in the future, to make sure that, like, not everything's about work, about accomplishments, about, you don't take your degrees down with you, you don't right. Take your experiences from the military with you. It's like, after the end of the day, can somebody consider you to be a mensch or not? Like, that's a big thing for me. Yeah. And that's the way I kind of live my life.
Yeah. Well, good. It's great that you had the opportunity to do that. There aren't many of us who would have the opportunity to, reconnect with people who are still over, in the land of their origins.
Yeah, so it's such a rarity, and I'm so thankful to be bicultural in that way and be able to go over there, and a lot of times when I go there, I usually go to Israel as well, because I have friends over there. So some people from Denver made Aliyah, and so we spend time together as well in Israel. And it's a 3.5 hour flight, so not too shabby. It'd be like flying from New York to Frankfurt. So, or Frankfurt to Tel Aviv is like flying from Denver to New York. So it's not too bad.
Yes, right.
But yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for, providing value to me without even thinking about it and expecting anything in return. This is the 6th interview that I've done, and everybody's been really open and honest, and had the foresight to understand, like, what we're trying to do here, and I think the camaraderie that we have. It's always nice to walk into a room and not have to really explain yourself on, like, why you're thinking the way you are based on your experiences. And that's what I really appreciate about the post.
Yes, I agree. And, hopefully there'll come a point when we can do it in person again, within a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I also have I don't know if you'd be interested or not. I have a program that we run through the Fulda Foundation. It's a nonprofit that me and a buddy got started, but we have a program called Nosh with a Mensch, and it's just basically getting folks like you to come and hang out, schmooze, and have dinner with a group of younger folks, like in their 20s and 30s, and you're just talking about life, kind of the way we are right now, but just seeing if you would be up for that at all, like once life gets quasi back to normal.
Yeah, I would consider that, yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely get in touch offline, and I'll definitely put you on the list. And it's a really good time where you get to just kind of hang out and kind of, just talk, and people are going to tell you about their stuff as well. And I think one thing that our community is a little different in is that most people have children a little bit later in life. And so a lot of folks don't have grandparents and that feeling and that attachment to an older generation in that same capacity. And then on top of that, most of the people don't serve in the military. So you have two things that really resonate with them in a different way. And I think they're very appreciative in talking to folks like yourself about stuff, just in general.
Okay.
Well, David, I can't thank you enough for your time. Hopefully you got something out of it as much as I did. And we'll be sure to, let you know when the stuff is done edited, and we'll send you an email with the link and everything else, and you'll be able to share that with your friends and family.
Very nice. Well, I think everyone's very appreciative of what you're doing, and I look forward to getting that link and seeing how it all came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will share it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay, you as well.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Yep. The show is produced and engineered by myself, Ben, out of Denver, Colorado. Be sure to subscribe to our social media or wherever you consume content, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Big shout out to Mike Xavier. Thank you so much for letting us use your music as part of our show. Be sure to check him out as well on social media. And stay tuned for the next show.